Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us again today. We got a great guest. He's a Marine Corps veteran by the name of Landon Champman, and he owns a company called Semper Sharp, who makes the absolute coolest knives I've ever seen, Nick's ever seen, and I think you're going to agree with us. Like I've been saying this to myself, and I said it to my wife. I'm going to get Nick an anniversary present. I'm going to get him one of these knives for our 5-year anniversary. So I'm excited to show you the guy who's going to make it for us. With that said, please like, subscribe, hit that bell. Let's get started.
Landon, how's it going, brother?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
My pleasure. Man. Thanks for having me.
Can you share, just for everyone's knowledge, where are you joining us from?
I live in Palmer, Alaska.
And so
60 miles north of Anchorage, if you're familiar with Alaska at all.
It's incredible. And Landon, you have a very interesting story, right? So you own Semper Sharp. Barry and I, we've been nerding out about how awesome these things are, right? I can't wait to get my hands on one of them.
And we're going to show some pictures so you guys, we don't keep you in suspense.
Thanks, guys.
But Landon, so tell us, like, how did you start? Like, what got you interested in knives, and how did you transition from the Marine Corps ultimately into owning a knife manufacturing company up in Alaska?
So my grandfather was a knife maker. He worked in the machine shop at Caterpillar for the tractors. Mm-hmm. And he was also my next door neighbor growing up. So I would go over there and hang out with him, like when my parents were at work and whatnot. And I was never allowed to touch anything, but I was able to watch and pick up, kind of like attention to detail, craftsmanship, what's expected, that kind of thing. And then he was also a knife collector. He had thousands of knives when he ended up passing away. But I was stationed in Hawaii, it was my first duty station was Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And that's where my grandpa passed away. I inherited knives and knife making stuff from him. But because of the deployment schedule and things going in and out of storage all the time, my dad hung on to them for me. Fast forward, I got out of the Marine Corps, and my dad sent me, the boxes of stuff that I had inherited from him. And I was going to UAA, getting my bachelor's degree at the time. And my dad was coming up for Christmas, so I thought I'm gonna, in the stuff that I inherited was like some knives that my grandpa had started making, but he didn't finish before he passed. So I just thought I'm gonna take one of these knives and finish it and give it to my dad for Christmas. So it would be, a knife that his father started and his son finished. And when I did that, I did not know that I was going to like make knives for a living or anything like that. I just watched YouTube, kind of figured it out. It was not beautiful, but I got it done. And when I gave it to him, I just made like a brief little post on Facebook about, hey, just kind of what I just told you guys there, that story. And from that post, like 2 or 3 guys were like, hey, dude, make me a knife, and I said, okay, I'll make you a knife. And then that kind of snowballed into, I think we just made number 3,800. So we've made almost 4,000 knives so far. Wow. And that was in 2018. So this isn't like it's been like 5 years, so it wasn't super quick, but it's fairly quick.
That's awesome. And so you started up, you're doing this in the Marine Corps. It was kind of a side hustle, it sounds like.
No. So I didn't do any of this when I was in the Marine Corps. When I was in the Marine Corps, my last duty station was Hawaii. I was about to re-enlist. I had orders to the drill field, and a space available flight came up from Pearl Harbor to J-Bear, and J-Bear is in Anchorage, Alaska. So I asked my first sergeant. I got put in leave request. We all flew up here. My daughters were like 2 and 3 at the time. And it was beautiful. I mean, the Enterprise rental car lady came and picked us up we were staying at an old barracks, and they came and picked us up, and I was driving her back with the rental car, and these 2 big bull moose come walking right in front of us. And I mean, they're as big as horses, with antlers. And I was like, man, I really feel like we should live here. So I told my wife, I'm like, I'm good to get out if you want to, if you want to do this. And it's crazy because she's a nurse, and she just like called the local hospital, and they were like, we need nurses really bad. We'll hire you right now and give you a sign on. So we were like, all right, we're going to do it. And our agreement was, kind of my prayer is that I was spending so much time away from family that I was willing to get out. I was right around my 8-year mark. I thought, well, I'm going to get out, and my prayer is that I can spend more time with my family. So my wife was nursing for a while, and I was using my GI Bill, getting my bachelor's degree at the time. And that's kind of when I started. I was used to Marine Corps operational tempo, and then college was much easier than that, less demanding. So I had that free time there, and that's when it kind of turned into a side hustle on the side of going to school.
Got it. And with that transition, right, it wasn't just, hey, I'm walking away, I'm coming up on the end of my contract. You were actually you already had orders, right?
Yeah. Yep. So then this is 2014. So this is in the like sequestration time frame, where guys are kind of getting booted for no apparent reason. So they were allowing you to submit for early out, I guess is what it was called.
Yeah.
So I submitted for that, and it worked, and I got out. So yeah, I was dead set on career Marine. Being fully transparent, like my wife and I at that time, we were not in good shape, like marriage wise. There was issues with like drinking and like just a lot of things we had in our life that wasn't conducive to a happy marriage.
Yeah.
And
no, come on, Marines are drinking.
I know that's super hard to believe, but
knock me over with a feather.
Yeah. No, I just being transparent. This is that's where we were. So it was like we needed more time together because we needed to kind of like try to heal our marriage for our kids' sake,
Sure.
And so that's kind of what our prayer was, hey, I'm gonna get out of the Marine Corps, even though I like it. I was fairly good at it. And we're going to work on us. So, and fast forward 8 years, we work side by side now. So I guess the prayer was answered.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's cool.
So
go ahead. No, you're good.
So you started the business, right? It's up and running now. You made a leap though, right? Like it started off just you, and it sounded like your wife transitioned into it after you'd already been doing it for a bit. And then you have what, 4 employees plus the 2 of you?
Yep. We have 6 now. We actually have a 7th like slated to start, but he's like a high school kid and just somebody that we're gonna. It's more of like a mentorship project than it is like an employee thing. But yeah, so I started off by myself. My wife was kind of taking care of like the books side of things, and then I started getting busy, and then, like finals would come up and I wouldn't be able to be out in the shop as much as I would be able to be in school. So she was starting to like float in and help me there. Then we just decided that she needs to come on full time. That was a really hard jump. But it instantly started, like we instantly saw like good results. So it was an easy thing for us to continue with. And then we started by hiring like some of my friends' kids. They were, in high school, and we were just having them do kind of like the grunt work of like sanding finished or hardened steel, which takes hours, and it's just not. It's a good thing for high school kids to do. So I started there, and then we needed more of like commitment, So we started hiring like adults, that needed a real job. And so then, since we did that, they've really allowed us to grow and scale, because I don't have to be there all the time. Where like the younger employees, you kind of got to like be there to supervise all the time.
So the message here is to start out with child labor, guys.
Well, I think, and make sure they're your friends' kids too, so you can't. No, so yeah, I think so. There is the way that we started out though that I think it is crucial to our success, and that was like a no debt model. So for me, I just like I was trying to sell this to my wife, who's like, all of our family is saying things like, well, how many knives can you make anyway? Like all of the doubters were there. So I was like, okay, so if this does, and at first it's all your friends and family that's buying knives,
Yeah.
And so, like, at what point are we going to gain new customers and like people we sell knives to people we don't know? And so that was one of the scare that kept us debt free. So I would literally like make a knife, get the money from that, and then reinvest all of that to buy more supplies or tools or, however we needed to grow. And we didn't ever put anything on a credit card or nothing like that. And it's crazy because when COVID happened, we were friends with a lot of other entrepreneurs that did have a bunch of debt, and they were panicking because they needed that income to pay their bills, and for us, it was like, well, at least we don't have debt. And it made it a lot more comforting going through that, with that model. I'm not saying that all debt's bad by any means, but for us, like starting off, we just started very small, like Craigslist tools and stuff like that.
Well, that's definitely Nick's love language, is talking about no debt. But this brings up a point I wanted to ask you, Landon, because, I've been a loan officer now for about 21 years, but, I'm an entrepreneur. I've had other companies and stuff like that. And you can make the best product in the world, but if nobody is there to see it, if you don't have a way to be able to get the word out and market it, it doesn't matter how great your knives are. Like, how did you guys go from friends to all of a sudden, you've got, from what I understand, like fan clubs on Facebook of people that actually collect your knives now. How did you get to that part? What were you doing?
I think a lot of that big portion is like blessings and stuff that I don't even know how to explain. Maybe, I don't know if you've ever read the book by Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers, but I feel like all the stars kind of like aligned for us. And so I'm from a really small town. So like I feel like we have it's like a big hometown family, if that makes any sense. And then I have 8 years of the Marine Corps. So I have friends that are all over the country that are Marines. And so I don't think it would have happened without social media and without friends that would share my stuff and push it out there. I really think that's how it started to grow.
Organically.
That's exactly how it happened. Yeah. Wow. So, and then we always, like at first we started taking orders. So every knife that we made was something that somebody would call in and say, hey, I want a hunting knife with a gut hook. And this is my budget. So I would make that knife and then, fulfill that order. But then it got to the point where we had like 200 people that had knives on order. And we were telling them like, it'll be a year before this ever even gets built. And that sounds great whenever you like are starting a business and you want revenue and you need money coming in, like you'll take those jobs like, heck yeah, people are actually buying these things. But then it got to the point where we realized how much time we were spending making the exact knife that people wanted. So there was this transition from taking custom orders to another thing about the custom orders was my personal cell phone was the business phone too. And so I had 200 people that had knives on order that also had my cell phone. So like when I would wake up in the morning, I would have like 5 messages. Hey, brother. And I think they were good intentions, but it was like, hey, brother, just checking on my knife, seeing how it's going. But then you're getting like, 20 of those a week and it gets stressful, So I got my own personal cell phone and stopped taking orders kind of around the same time. And then from there, we slowly transitioned to putting knives on our website. And now it's probably like 80% knives that we just put up on our website for sale. And it's an efficient thing. And for a little bit, we were only selling knives on our website. But then we missed kind of like that back and forth communication with our clientele, because we got a bunch of cool people that, we have like professional hunters, law enforcement guys, military guys. There's just all of these like really cool kind of like similar personalities to mine that like these knives and collect them. And it's pretty cool when I get to incorporate all the materials that they were thinking into a knife, so we missed it a little bit, but now we just, we'll only, like, as soon as we get to 20 people on our custom build list, I just won't take any orders until we work that down. So we just tried to regulate it a little bit better.
Well, and you have a background, right? Like you mentioned the efficiency, but you have an eye and a knack for creating efficiency too, right? And we were talking before, it's not just, there's different ways to judge success inside of a business, right? Sure. It could be the profit margin. It could be, the tack time of how fast things are rolling off the line. Like there's an infinite number of measurables that you can take. But how do you look at and judge that?
That's a really good question. After my bachelor's degree, I went to graduate school and I got my MBA. And I remember talking to some of my professors about they're like, well, what is it that you measure? And they're like, do you measure your net profits, or, what are you going to pick? And for us, I knew that we wanted to be like American made knives, so that's like steel that's made in America. All of our handle materials are from like mom and pop type sawmills, stuff like that. So if we were measuring margins, it wouldn't match up for us, because I would need to order steel from China, get cheap plastic handles, and try to make a knife for like $3 and sell it for 10, like triple your money on it or something like that. But that's not our style. So we chose to invest in efficiency and time. So every time we look to make a purchase on equipment or a process or anything like that, we always measure how efficient that will make us. And there's all sorts of ways that we've done that, whether it's through like batch work. Instead of doing one model of 10 different knives, do 10 knives of one model, and then you can rotate through them a whole lot quicker. And then also like machinery too, like instead of one grinder and changing the belts on the grinder all the time, you can have 4 of them and just jump from grinder to grinder. So you don't have to, even drill presses, we have there's like 5 different sizes of holes that we would drill for handles. And so I would always have to change the drill bit, every time that we were going to drill a different size hole, I was changing the drill bits. And then, so I bought like a bunch of drill presses so that there was a drill bit for each one. But now I just make all of our handle pins the exact same size. I only have to worry about one drill bit. So there's just all these little things that you can do, to make yourself more efficient. When we started, I think it would take me maybe 10 hours to make a knife by myself. And then when my wife came on, it got quicker, and we would get to where we can make 7 a week. And that was really good. And now I think we're doing 30 to 50. 50 is not really sustainable with our crew, but if we work some overtime and crunch, we can make it happen. But so we've gotten a lot faster and a lot more efficient, but it's we dig deep and try to be creative and find ways to do things faster because we still want the quality too, though, so there comes a point where you can work too fast and be careless, and then flaws start getting out, and we wouldn't want that either. So we're just trying to make the best knife possible as fast as possible.
And that's where the effectiveness comes in too, right? Getting that consistent output every single time, right? And it sounds like you've really got your processes dialed in at this point.
I think the biggest thing that I have problems with is that I know how much I can do in a certain amount of time. So I'll want to go in and focus on just working, but sometimes I don't back off and then go supervise our people either. So then they're going down this foxhole where I should have been supervising more, So for me, that's kind of what I need to invest more time in is I think at this point is training people and supervising. And that'll make us the most efficient from here on.
Well, there's a mindset shift that occurs too with a business owner, right? When you're going from being an individual contributor and that you can make a knife absolutely perfect, right? And you can do it in a certain amount of time, just like you said. And now when you start not doing those activities, you start to feel as if I'm not helping, right? I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But the reality is your time's best spent supervising.
Yeah.
Right? So
it's a hard pill to swallow though, because at first it's these people love the knives that I make. And then I'm not making them. So I don't know. It's one of those things. It's I gotta keep the ego out of it, swallow your pride, and understand what the business needs and not what I need. So.
Well, one of the things that I found to be really interesting, you're mentioning you're pulling this out of your MBA, you pulled this information kind of out of your degree and some of this out of the military. What are some things though, the traits from the military specifically, that you think has enabled your success?
I think the ability to do well when you're suffering is probably one of the most beneficial things, because when we started, like I said, we had like a no debt model, but what we also had was a whole lot of personal debt. And my marriage was like in the shambles, so we were like, we knew that money caused stress in our relationship. So we knew that we needed to buckle down, pay off all of our debt, eliminate like the money portion of our arguments, and then that would allow us to grow better. So even though we weren't like going into debt for the business, we were also like paying off a heap of debt, of personal debt. So I think that, and I tell people that a lot, right? But I don't think anybody really wants to eat ramen noodles for a year and not go out to eat, but it was like, that's what we had. We were all in. So that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
It was a good 18 months of like peanut butter and jelly and ramen noodles, and just buckling down, working as hard as we could, trying to grow social media and all of that. But I really think without the ability to like just go through hard times, and I think that's what I gleaned the most, from my time in the Marine Corps.
Well, the funny thing is, like we talked about this previously as well, just prior to the interview, right? Is none of us, not a single one of the three of us right now, had a skill set directly in the Marine Corps that said, Barry, when you get done with the Marine Corps, right, you're going to be a great loan officer. Landon, you're going to be a great business owner, knife maker. Like we didn't have those MOSs. And
right.
But we did have the intangible skill sets, I think, that sparked that, right? Like not to stroke our ego, but like, Landon, I imagine attention to detail is pretty darn important in your line of work, as it is in ours, right?
Yep.
And same thing, like the ethos that you're mentioning of like, hey, I'm not going to give up. Failure's not an option. I'm going to embrace the suck here.
Yep.
So I'm curious though, like, so what are some things, like, what do you wish you would have known if you were to do it all over again? What do you wish you would have known when you started?
Ooh. I grew up like we definitely were not poor, but we didn't like have a bunch of money either. My dad worked in a factory, and I didn't realize that there was people out there that would spend $1,000 on a knife, so like I was second guessing my ability to even make something. I didn't understand the value attached to it, I guess. So I was super fortunate. I have a buddy that owns a store in Peoria, Illinois, and it's called Rambler. And everything in the store is made in America. And like he goes to like all these trade shows to find clothes that are made in America. It's super impressive. But he saw my first knife post, right? And he said, hey, I'd like to sell some of your knives in my shop. And I was like, oh, so I got all excited, told my wife about it. And we made a few knives and sent it to him. And I was telling my wife, Haley, I'm like, hey, if we can get $150 each for these knives, like we might be able to make a business out of this thing. But I didn't have the guts to ask him for $150 a knife. I was like, I just didn't think it was worth it. I felt kind of like an imposter or something.
Yeah.
But so then I sent him the knives, he gets them, and he calls me. He's like, dude, these knives are great, man. I want to sell them in my store. How much do you want to get for them? And I was like, I didn't even have the guts to say it. I'm like, I don't know, man. What do you think? And he's like, I'm thinking $350 a piece. I'm like, oh, like he was more than double. So I was like, oh, okay, that's great. Started sending me links to other guys that were making knives and stuff and what they were charging. So I really think like going into it, I wish I would have known that like there's people out there that are willing to buy it. You just got to get your product in front of them. So just having come from that, like a small community, pretty humble beginnings to, socializing with people that are cool, spending $1,000 a week on knives is just like, I didn't know that those people even existed. So I just think that like another thing from the military is like always just being the best and blossoming where you're planted. And sometimes like, you get the gate guard duty as a PFC and you hate it, but you be the best gate guard and then you're going to get promoted and get to do something else, So for me, I think one of the things that we focus on is just always being the best and not quitting. So I think that as long as we truly like try as hard as we can to make the best knife possible, And that's a thing. It's a beauty thing, but it's also like a durability type thing too. Like up here. So it's like the hunting and fishing is different in Alaska, and I'm from the Midwest, and I didn't understand it, but like in Alaska, everything is on state land, and you don't need like a property to go hunting, and the same with fishing. So like there's a season for salmon fishing where you can take like a 6 foot in diameter net and just scoop fish out of the river with it. And like a family of 4 can get 55 salmon, right? So I was seeing these guys walking down to go fishing. They would have a 5-gallon bucket full of knives. And I'm like, what are you doing with all the knives? And I'm like, well, we don't have time to sharpen them. So we just bring a bucket full and, just switch them out when they go dull. And I started thinking like, man, I feel like science I'm sure there's metals out there that will hold the edge for that long, Yeah. And so I kind of like started researching it there. And then I shot a moose by myself. It was like 1,500 pounds. And I was quartering this thing out. I didn't realize how big of a task it was going to be, because I'm used to white-tailed deer that you can like throw in a truck or something. Yeah. But you can't move these things. So I was sharpening my knife a whole bunch there too. And so what I realized is that I need to provide something for these people that they don't have to stop in the middle of a big task of cleaning fish or cleaning a moose or multiple caribou or something like that. Like I don't want them to have to stop and sharpen or carry a whole 5-gallon bucket full. So that's kind of been one of the things is like, I just want to find the product, whatever it is, and make the best possible. And I think that's truly like the only reason that we've gotten this far.
Do you think that, I mean, not do you think, but what do you think the statistics are of somebody who buys one of these amazing freaking knives and actually goes and, uses it on a moose or a white, you'll see pictures of this because we're going to put them in the live stream here.
They're work of arts.
These are pieces of art. I mean, they're not, this isn't like, your Ginsu knives that you see on some late night freaking, paid TV.
Although I did spend a lot of time watching those shows when I was a kid.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you think that most of your clients actually use these knives, or do they put them in a case for, to show off as a collectible?
I feel like it's both. I know that it's both. So it's super weird, but like this one guy was having a house built and he had this like long hallway where he was going to have art displayed, so he wanted us to make these like big Damascus knives and he's going to have them in his hallway, like I knew that those probably weren't going to get used. But then I got guys that'll buy $1,200, these are like stainless steel Damascus, which is the knife alone's like $100 an inch. And then we're putting like 8,000-year-old mammoth tooth handles on it. Like, so we're using fossils for the handles, and these guys, they're sending me pictures of these knives all bloody. Like, hey man, check it out. I got this whole moose. Okay. So, and maybe they, so we stand behind our product too. So
it's not like a Pokemon card where if you open it up, that it becomes worthless. It's like,
yeah, no, that's
no problem.
Yeah, no. So we sharpen our knife. So back to kind of the steel that I want to hold the edge so people don't have to sharpen all the time. So a lot of those steels, they exist, but it's very hard to sharpen them with like regular sharpeners like what you would have in your kitchen or something like that. So we offer free sharpening for the life of the knife. And then every time we get it back to sharpen it, I'm able to like sand the handle, rebuff it, apply wax, and just kind of like do proper upkeep for the knives also. So that's one of the ways that I think that we're getting them to last for so long is because of the care that we put into it even after the fact. But yeah, the steels that are harder or hold the edge for longer, everything's more difficult about them. It's like you'll see Forge and Fire where they just kind of like stick a carbon steel rust real easy, and that's typically the Damascus that's forged and everything is older kind of carbon steels. And they're awesome. Don't get me wrong. Like they'll hold the edge for a long time, but they'll also rust in like 30 minutes if you don't get the water off of them. And I got clients that are out hunting 3 weeks, on mountaintops, and they don't have time for rusty knives, So
Yeah.
It was one of those things that we had to invest in too. So we had to have like digital kilns to heat treat these knives, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. But it's cool whenever you get the pictures on the other end of these guys that are like, "Hey man, I just did 100 salmon and I didn't have to sharpen my knife one time." You know, it's just that's kind of like that. That's what we pride ourselves in. We like that kind of stuff.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, dude, you packed a lot into this. I mean, you know, a lot of great inspiration, a lot of, you know, getting to the point to where you're at right now and the quality of the products and the processes. And is there anything that you'd like to share with everybody that we haven't covered, Landon, that you know, something kind of like you hoped that we would cover during this interview?
No, I don't really have anything to say other than like, I don't think that I'm really a special circumstance. I think that I'm not doing anything that any other veteran can't do. You know, like I failed at businesses, and I think that you can't stop at one failure. You know, like I bought $10,000 worth of dogs one time because I thought I was going to be this like professional dog breeder, and I failed miserably at that. And then I was like cutting out like moose silhouettes out of plywood in my garage and selling them for like $200, and it would take me 10 hours to make it, you know, and that obviously didn't work. You can't support your family with that. So I think the only thing is what I would like to, you know, if I had one thing to say would be, it's not difficult. Just find something that you really like to do, try to be the best in the world at it, and don't quit. And I think eventually those things will kind of fall into place, you know, and in trying to be the best, that doesn't mean just like try to make the art the best. It means like the art needs to be the best. Your customer service needs to be the best. Your social media content needs to be the best. It's like all around, just try to be the best. And I think that over time, like anything's possible. So just if you just stick to it, I think you'll be good. That would be my message.
Well, that's a great way to end this, and I would agree 100%. I've managed and trained, you know, over 1,000 people in my 100-year career. You know, I'm kind of joking, but not joking. I'm 62, and after I got out of the Marine Corps, I've been a manager most of my career, and I've seen so many people that I thought were just going to be incredible that just fell flat on their face because they quit a week before the magic happened. You know, it's like they just don't see it all the way through. And the lesson here is that, you know, I think with you, and I could say definitely with me, and I'm sure that Nick would agree. I mean, man, there's so many times like I almost quit. Like, you know, it's like, you know, I just couldn't see myself getting over that hump. And I was just like, there's no way. Like, failure is not an option, you know, until I get kicked out of the building, I'm not leaving. You know what I mean? So that's definitely great words of wisdom. And so
I got a pretty good book on this topic. I just read it this week. It's called The Compounding Effect. I don't know if you've ever read it before.
Yes.
But they're talking like one of the examples in his book was like a hand water pump, like pumping water out of the well, you know? And he was saying like, man, you can pump on that thing for like 5 minutes and you're like, I'm doing all this work and I'm not getting any water. But then 5 minutes and 10 seconds comes and water starts trickling. Like, don't stop and say, oh, I wasted 5 minutes and 10 seconds to get this water to start pumping. When really, if he would have just kept pumping the bucket, he could have filled up multiple. It's just the work on the beginning half, I think, that's so difficult. And people want to quit and jump to the next object that seems like the next shiny object or whatever. But I think if you just get in there, put in the work and stick to it, eventually, you know, it'll work out. You know, I'm fully confident.
There's a concept, Landon, within psychology, right? It's called an S curve. And the idea of the S curve is anytime we start something new, right, we enter into this state of uninformed optimism, right? Like, yeah, I'm excited. I know making knives is going to be hard. Everyone says it's going to be hard, but I'm ready for it, right?
Right.
And then you start going down the S curve. You're like, this shit sucks. This is hard. What did I do? Why did I sign up for this?
Yep.
But to your point, like if you keep growing, like you have explosive growth if you don't stop at the bottom, right? And the bottom, that's the hardest part. But then that's where the average person goes, I'm going to chase that next thing. It's much more comfortable to be at a point of uninformed optimism than it is to be at a point of informed pessimism.
Absolutely.
So,
and I think that like you're talking about the S curve going down, that's the preparing part. And I think in the beginning, you don't even really know what you're preparing for, but I don't know that you're ready for the big break either, So then when you start coming back up, then that's where the opportunities come, and like preparation and opportunity at the same time is like, I think that's where things can get explosive. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Well,
brother,
it's simple. It's not easy, right?
Yeah. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah.
That's right.
And easy doesn't typically pay all that well either. So
no. Well, we appreciate you so much, Landon. And
Thank you.
I can't wait to watch you even grow further, man. I mean, I'm so impressed with you and your family, and the lifestyle choices you guys have made and the dream that you're following. We'd like to check in with you every now and then.
Absolutely.
And just
That
see
would
how
be great.
coming. Is there anything we can do as a community, anybody that's watching this, that to support you in your endeavors other than ordering a knife?
I mean, I feel like we're pretty well supported. We're doing good. My main reason for even coming here was just maybe to find somebody that was in like the same shoes as me. Because when I went on to get my master's degree, I really didn't. I knew that I didn't think that I would do well in like a corporate environment or like a bureaucratic company or anything like that. So I had this fear of having to do that, and I think that's why I tried so hard to be successful in my own business, was so that I didn't have to go work for somebody else. So yeah. I think that I didn't approach this podcast as like for me to try to get anything out of it. I was just hoping that maybe if one person saw this and it could help them, then that would be a success, So, I mean, if anybody wanted to follow us on social media, that would be awesome. But more, my main goal here was that if there's some other guy out there that's just wondering what he can do, just to maybe be an encouragement.
Well, and I think that you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's why Nick and I started this thing to begin with. Yes. I mean, the side benefit is that we do get to support each other, and like, we if there's anything Nick ever needs, he knows he can come to me. That we have other people that we've connected with, and that's been a great side benefit to it. But the whole reason we started the Veterans Wealth Network was to let guys like you tell your story, man, because it's never what it appears to be at first glance. At first glance, you look at this and you go, wow, this guy is just like unbelievably talented. And you don't hear about the struggles and the lessons and the challenges that you've had to overcome and have overcome. So you did a fabulous job, man. Can't thank you enough. And Nick, anything else you want to wrap up with, brother?
No, I appreciate your time, Landon. And again, for those of you out there watching, if you aren't already following Landon on social media, you're missing out on some amazing pictures. Please be sure to follow him on Instagram. But no, I appreciate the time. And Landon, it's been nothing short of a pleasure, brother.
It's been great. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell, and share this video with somebody that you think might get a lot out of it. Okay? Everybody take care. Thanks again.